Alright, so in this video I had some friends who wanted to know more about the
Do
basic
this just like
mechanics
all the
of,
rest, and everything will be
this is
fine.
Resonance of Fate. In Japan it's called End of Eternity. Um, Interesting little game. I'm going to go over some of the mechanics here in battle. We'll start with the 4 shards, the orange ones you see below in the center of the screen. These bezel shards will deplete every single time I pass. I use this mode of movement, which is like the X button or the square button for PlayStation. It opens up this sort of path that I can designate my characters to run. If they cross between the other two members, you get this sort of fiery, I guess it's a resonance charge. Those are what you want to be building up, and so that's sort of what makes this a it kind of, you'll be creating triangles the whole time in order to do that. This game's made by Tri-Ace, and triangles are sort of a theme of theirs, so go figure. So I'll pass Zephyr, my machine gunner, through getting the first resonance charge. I've placed him in the middle just so we can start every combat situation like this. As you can see, we've got a couple enemies over here, one over here, two up here. I'm gonna kind of, I guess I could just pick a group at this point and have them gather. I'm gonna pick these two up north. I'm gonna try and form my triangle kind of around these guys. I'll still be, when the triangle's formed, I'll still be somewhat close to these other outliers. They'll just kind of move in towards me anyway to hunt me down and make it easier for me to hit them. So I'm gonna run Zephyr out this way, and I'm gonna just have him target this first flamer. You can see these different health bars on him. Those are like different limbs, or obviously the ones that are double stacked are sort of represented as pieces of armor. Um, every time you deplete one of those health bars, you'll gain one of those orange shards back. You'll see that they'll deplete again every time I use one of these running motions, these resonance charges to run this path. I'll lose a shard for doing that. I can gain them back by diminishing and just killing off these limbs or these segments of the health bar. There is a mechanic in here that you'll see later where I might break them, break a gauge break, where a gauge break essentially cuts these bars in half, making it easier to deplete them and get your shards back. Um, it's it's a property of certain types of guns, like Lian's P22 or B226 as they call it in this game, which is really just a SIG P226, is a heavier stopping power, a heavy gauge breaking gun, whereas the 1911 45 auto that he has, that Vashron has, is not made for that. It has other properties, but so let's have him run this way, and I'm going to, the distance to the target will determine how fast I lock onto him or how fast I can attack him. You'll see those charges start to build up in the form of bullets. Um, you'll see what I mean here in just a second. I'm going to take this first route about out to here. I'm going to cut him a little short so that I can have Lian, whoever's going to be my third point of the triangle, be somewhere up here. So he's going to make the base right here, and he's going to be attacking this guy. My goal is to stay on the ground. I'm going to try and lift them up into the air like that. Because every time I do that, you probably didn't see it that time, but there's a yellow bar that starts to accumulate. It's the bonus shot meter, and if the larger that bar is, the larger chance that I have to score a bonus shot or to try for a bonus shot. It's like a little carnival game where you have to time the pointer just right in that segment, and if you do, you get the bonus shot. You'll see that happen later. Um, I guess the other mechanics of this game, you can see there are letters associated with each one of these enemies. That's who they're targeting. This one has Lian, this one has Vashron, that one has Zephyr, and you can see he's got his attack gauge is filling up. My goal, I guess, while I'm running around is also to try and reset these. I don't want them to attack my characters because they'll build up scratch damage, and they can break that bezel gauge down below, which is a whole nother nightmare, so you don't want that to happen. So I'm going to try and reset these as I move Vashron to his leg of the journey here, the triangle. I'm going to try and, lifting them up in the air will reset them. Sometimes if you just do enough damage and cause sort of like a knockback effect, it'll reset their attack gauge, but let's see what we can do. Maybe we can get him off of Zephyr. He still hasn't waited.
I see right through you. Don't blink or you'll miss it.
So there's my shard. I got him knocked him up. He's not going to attack with Zephyr anymore. And he's just
Who do you
exploded.
think you're messing with?
Cool, so that worked out pretty well. He's not dead, of course, but he's pretty hurt, and we stopped that meter from increasing. So now I'm going to put Lian at the tip of our triangle here. just so I have a nice little try attack that you're going to see coming up soon. I'm going to target, I guess I'll just finish off this guy. I don't see anybody about to attack any particular character, so this is fine. In fact, I have such a long running distance that I'm going to start just picking off this guy as I go along, because I'll fill up that gauge quicker. So I'll take about 2 pop shots, and now I'm going to target this guy. And cool. These are flamers, they will attack. Exactly triggers them, you just have to hit a certain there to cause it damage. So he's stunned. His gauge is broken, as you can see. I've cut it in half. So now it's much easier for me to get a shard back. All I have to do is finish off that little segment there of the first half, and I'll get a shard back just for depleting that life bar. So gauge breaking is very crucial to heavily armored, heavily HP'd enemies, where you're not going to beat them in like 4 passes with resonance passes, so you're going to need to recoup those. On a single boss fight where it's just one large boss, you got to find ways to do that, or else you're going to be in that critical state, which is when you have none of those resonance points left, or those little bezel shards. They're all empty. When you run out of those, your characters are too scared to move. Enemies can freely move, can actively move and attack you while you're even charging them and locking onto them. They don't hold at bay like they do when you're running a path with the resonance charge. And it's just, they don't do much damage at all. It's almost impossible to come back from, so you don't ever want to reach that state. So that's just a little bit about gauge breaking and getting those bezel shards back. But here's a cool feature. So now we have 3 resonance points. We've run our route. We have our triangle. So I'm going to push Y or triangle if you're playing on PlayStation to activate this try attack. Right now the order is Zephyr, Leanne, and Vacheron. Those are the order of attack, or that's the order of attack. I'm trying to level up Vacheron's XP with the handgun, so I'm going to make him number 2 because Zephyr is going to lay all that scratch damage down, which actually can't kill enemies. That blue damage you saw cannot kill enemies. What it does is sort of soften up targets. The moment direct damage, which is the handguns, touches that scratch damage, it turns into real damage and wipes that bar clean, however much blue scratch damage was built up. So that's kind of how this works. I'm going to use, you can see the yellow bar, or the gold bar off to the right by their names. That's how much time they have in this try attack. You can see these little points or these exclamation marks looking indicators on the apex of the triangle. That'll be 1 pass, I guess. I think it's when they come back to their original starting point. That's 1 pass. They will get 3 passes since I have 3 resonance points built up. Obviously, the larger your triangle, the longer the attack will last, but you have to hope that you're kind of in range of the enemy. The farther you are from them, the slower they'll build up a charge. So it's kind of proportional. Aside from all that, let's just run this route, and we'll be trying to again knock our enemies in the air to get those bonus shots. When they do, they drop a ton of items, so I prefer to get those bonus shots off. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about that. I can start this try attack with anyone by switching over to them. I can have Vacheron lead it, I can have Leanne lead it, but of course I want to build up that scratch damage first to soften them up so that the direct damage is more effective. So let's do that.
Don't move a muscle!
Don't move a muscle!
Eat dirt! Quit
You might be
wasting
saying, well,
my
hey, how come some of these characters will attack twice? Like right there, right? Isn't the order Zephyr, Vacheron, and then Leanne? Well, if Zephyr is so close to the target that he can build up a charge, fire off and then build another charge before they can even before they're close enough to build up one, he'll go again. So that's where that comes into play. Here's the target shot, or the bonus shot. You can see the items. Actually, he did not drop any items. Normally he would drop them. So yeah, those are items on the ground. It doesn't matter. You don't have to run around and collect them. They'll come to you after the battle. You'll collect all of those that are on the ground, so there's no need to worry about that. Let's see. So here's another interesting part of the game. This is what usually gets people in trouble. It's like, hey, my resonance, my little try attack, the super duper attack, 223 hit combo there, didn't finish off all my enemies. What do I do now? Now I've got to set up another triangle. And how do I go about doing that? I have them they're not online anymore, so it's not easy to do that. But what I find is you almost replace them in their current positions where they're at with each other. So I'm going to pick Zephyr if I can. This will work. The triangle should end up relatively close to these guys. So I can use Zephyr in this instance and start with scratch damage. Sometimes I have to start with the last person that was running the attack, like Leanne, in order to push the triangle back this way, where the remainder of the enemies might be. But this works out well, so I'm basically just going to replace him with her at her position. No one's ready to attack, and this guy's damaged, so I'm just going to go for him.
I'm gonna blow you away! This the spot? Game over!
He's fully scratched, so that works. I'll have Leanne switch places with him. She's going to take out this guy. Just got scratched. You can extend, like, see I was almost at the end of my route there, but I wanted to go time, so if you jump in the air, their turn is not over until they land, so I was able to get kind of an aerial attack. And Smackdown, again, will reset their gauge. It will also cause them to drop items, and it does just a little bit more damage. So always take the opportunity if they're airborne and you know you're not going to get that target shot, and you know you're coming up at the end of your route, just maybe jump up in the air and get a Smackdown for some extra damage and whatnot. So now I'm going to have him extend just about here, just to make the triangle. This is a very short triangle, but it'll work.
Too late for regrets. You want some of this?
Get him on fire.
Don't
Again, at the
blink
end of
or
my
you'll
route, I'm trying to get some mileage out of it. Flame damage is scratch damage, so although in most of these enemies they're going to be dealing scratch damage, very, very rarely do they just inflict direct damage like you can. It's usually scratch damage that builds up. Once that meter's full of scratch damage on your character, it will break the gauge when they hit you again. So we have 3 resonance points again. Let's get back at it. We're in the right order this time. This guy's pretty weak. I'll start with him. It is tempting to go for this. You know what? Why not?
Eat some of this!
I see right through you.
I imagine it's going to work for everybody. So.
Don't move a muscle!
Too late.
So long.
Quit wasting my
Alright,
time!
throw the shot. Probably gonna die before then, but still carries over to the next one.
I see you!
If I can get him in the middle of that bonus, he still carries.
Eat dirt!
There we go.
I won't take that one down.
Time to die!
Hard to get there, but yeah, so
Not
then the
bad for
battle's
a
cleared.
job.
You get all the items that were all over the
Personally,
ground.
I could use a little more thrill.
That's pretty much the basics of Resonance of Fate. I'll show you briefly. Your levels consist of the cumulative level, the sum of all of the different types of weapons and their levels. So handgun plus submachine gun plus grenades, that's going to be your total level. You can pass them. I can totally unequip the submachine gun from Zephyr, give it to Vacheron, and vice versa. I can move these around. The grenade case, these are sub items. There'll always be a first aid kit which holds your items. Someone will have the grenade box which holds your different types of grenades, and then someone will hold the magazine case which has like hollow point ammunition. It'll have incendiary ammunition, all these different types of weaknesses. You can see the resistances and the stats for some of these. Well, that's for the item that she has on, but you'll see that in battle if you select a certain type of ammunition. It'll show you what it's strong against, and you can use it in different situations. And then lastly, customizing your weapons. This looks ridiculous. Like, who's going to use a 1911 with a foregrip and 2 sights on it? It's a bit ridiculous, I know, but it's a unique mechanic for just adding stats to your weapons. So I know later on in the playthrough I'll have a handgun or a submachine gun with like 3 barrels coming off the front. Just absolutely ridiculous, but just another unique mechanic of this game. I do like it. But this will affect your acceleration time, your lock-on acceleration, so how quickly once you get going that you'll start building up charges, how quickly you initially lock on to a target, the number of bullets you'll fire, or how much ammunition you have per magazine, per charge, and then your accuracy, that sort of thing. So, and of course the speed of fire. They do have a certain weight. At some point when your characters are high enough leveled, you'll be able to dual wield pistols if you don't want to hold this first aid kit or something, or you can even dual wield SMGs if you have the weight capacity. But yeah, that's pretty much the game in a nutshell, the basics of combat. I hope you all enjoyed, and check out the game.